Hey, good morning. It is great to see all of you out there. Thank you all for joining us here this morning. We are glad that you are here. It's one of the few Sundays where, out of the year, where we get to kind of blend our Wednesday night youth ministries with our Sunday morning church ministries. And so as you look around, there's going to probably be a lot of unfamiliar faces, but there's people that are involved on our Wednesday nights that maybe you don't notice, and there's people that are involved on Sundays that you don't notice. So what a great opportunity it is to be here and to all be here for the same reason, to hear about the mission trip that we just took to Texas. So thank you for coming out. Thank you for being here. As I had about a week to reflect on kind of where our trip, about our mission trip to Texas, that we took about 27 people to Texas. And if you went on the trip, just really quick, would you stand up where you're at? I know that I'm going to spread you out here soon, I promise. And you're going to love that, especially that table right there that has like 7 people. But very good. We don't have everybody here today, but we do have quite a few of them, and they are here today because they went on a mission trip to Texas with our church. They went there. We ventured down for a whole week to go and got to spend time with a bunch of teenagers. Adults, I'm so grateful for them because without them, we wouldn't be going on this trip, I promise, because there's no way that I'm taking 20-some teenagers by myself. I love them, but not that much. So it's definitely, so we had a good week. But as I had a chance to reflect on the week a little bit, and most mission trips that we take, there's always elements of challenge. And there's always things that you have to struggle with. And oftentimes in our lives, we don't necessarily like struggle. We don't like the challenges. But if we stop and reflect, and we look back at the areas in our lives where we struggled and the areas in our lives where maybe there was challenges, that's where in our lives we can see the most growth. And so as I think back to our mission trip, it started off with a challenge right away. I mean, we didn't even make it to exit 52 in Cameron, Missouri before the van broke down, and we had to sit there and wait and figure out what we were going to do. It had a challenge. I mean, it definitely put us off schedule to get there at any reasonable time there, but we had to figure out what we were going to do because that van was not going to make it to Texas. I promise that, and if it would probably have blown up if we would have kept driving it or whatever. But we pulled over and we had we sat at Arby's for several hours as we continued to figure out the problems and the issues in which we were going to probably figured out. We could have rented cars from Kansas City. We could have waited for Charles Gabus to come and bring us a new van down that we rented. And so we ended up going with Charles Gabus, so we had to wait several hours for them to come and bring us a brand new van. And we did, and we took care of the challenge, and we got back on the road after, 3 or 4 hours of helping Arby's stock probably go, I'm guessing, because your kids eat a lot. Like, I hope you know that, but you guys eat a lot. But in Arby's, they just kept going through the line and through the line and through the line again and again and again. But it was good. So we got going, we got down there. And then part of the challenges that we had through the week, because this was a different mission trip than the ones that I've kind of led in the past. Most of the trips we do a lot of service projects. We maybe build decks. We clean out things for families. We do different things along those lines. This one was all geared towards ministry of children in an apartment complex that we had kind of assigned to us for the whole entire week. So how it would go, it took a lot of preparation and a lot of work, and it was challenging because there's a lot of times that, I don't know if you know this or not, I know we have a few teachers in the audience, but sometimes students don't always like to give their best effort all the time, right? And so they had to, I wanted to make sure that they were prepared and ready to go because they were the ones teaching the lessons, and I wanted them to care about the people that they were teaching just like most of their teachers care about them when they're at school. And so I wanted to make sure that they were prepared. And so we spent lots of time preparing, whether it was puppets things that we did, whether it was giving our devotions, whether it was giving our testimonies. There was lots of times that had to do with preparation. And that was a challenge for some students to put forth, constant effort to kind of do that. And then once we got done with one day, we turned around and had to prepare for the next day. A lot of them, the challenges that the students faced was getting out of their comfort zone. As you maybe saw in some of the pictures at the beginning, they immediately had to get out of their comfort zone. Monday morning rolled around, and it was there. And one of our first things to do was go door to door knocking on at this apartment complex, at these two different apartment complexes that both of our groups were at. We had two groups. One group was at one group was at the other. But we had to go and knock on the doors, like cold knocking on the doors, and we passed out food, and we invited them to Rainbow Express. And for a lot of people, that's stuff that, for even myself, that's something that you don't do a whole lot. Like, we don't do that a lot around here, you know? And so having the students be able to, you know, jump right in and do that, and knock on doors, and pass out food, and invite to our Bible clubs, which was called Rainbow Express, and do that. And then to even make it more challenging, they asked how they could pray for that individual. And so then they would sit at the doorway of that place, and they would pray for that individual. That was challenging. That was hard. That was getting students out of their comfort zone to stretch them a little bit. And so as our week progressed, you may find this hard to believe, but the van had another little issue. It had a flat tire. And so then we had to go and figure out that problem. But all through all, your challenges provided us with opportunities for growth. Our challenges provided students for opportunities to realize that they can make a difference in this world in multiple different ways. That it doesn't matter how young they are. It doesn't matter if they are an outgoing person or kind of a reserved person. That they are created for a purpose, and they are created for a reason, and they can make a difference in this world. And I think that the challenges that we faced help us to realize that there's things in which we can do to kind of go through and impact the world and make it a better place and make it a positive place. Because there's people not only in Arlington, Texas, that need help, but there's people in our own community that could use help. There's people around here. There's people that go to their schools that could probably use a friendly smile from time to time. There's times that we as followers of God can reach out to other people and just be a nice person, be a shining light in that person's life. We live in a world full of negativity, and it's just brutal all the time. But we have a choice, and we have a chance that we can make a difference not only in Arlington, Texas, in a week-long mission trip, but we can do it right here in Indianola, Iowa as well, by simply showing love and looking out for other people and trying to meet other needs. So why did I choose Mission Arlington? I chose Mission Arlington, quite simple, because it was completely different than anything we've ever done. And I wanted to give, some of the students have been on multiple mission trips before, and some, this was their first one. And so I wanted to give a different perspective, a different approach to different things. So we chose Mission Arlington for the whole fact of it was completely different, and it was going to put the students at the forefront of being the ones that were teaching lessons and doing things, which for my personality is a lot harder to let them do it than me just to do it. I know that probably doesn't make sense, but it was hard. That was probably my biggest challenge, was letting them do it and letting them do this stuff, because I'm like, oh, but we can do it this way. But letting them kind of, trying to encourage them to use it in their own personalities, in their own ways, was good to be able to reach out to different people. What we did, we worked with kids. So everything that we did on our mission trip kind of pointed to 90 minutes at night with kids. So we had kids from 6 o'clock to 7:30 at these apartment complexes. And so you have to imagine that these apartment complexes are fairly vast. They're pretty large. And so these kids were also on spring break and didn't have a lot to do during the week. And so they kind of looked out for this. But everything that we did during the day pointed to that 90 minutes that we were going to have a chance to teach students, to love on students, to play with them, to teach them the gospel, to sing songs with them, all the things that we did. Everything pointed just to 90 minutes, all the work all day long. We would, like I said, we would pass out food, and we would start there, but we would wake up in the morning, we would go do a little bit of worship with the group, and then we would go and we would load our vehicles with as much food as possible. And you probably didn't see it necessarily in there because you wouldn't have noticed. But in order to get all the food that we needed to get from point A to point B, we would put all the kids in the van first, and then we would load boxes and boxes of food on top of them. And so I'm not really sure the safety, I mean, they weren't going to go anywhere. They were wedged in there pretty good. But that's how we had to transport all these food to the different sites. But we started with that. And then in the afternoons, we would get together and we would practice and we would prepare for what we were going to do that evening. And then 6:30 to 7:30 was quote unquote showtime, and it was the time where we put together our little program for the kids. So everything was for preparation for that, which is just kind of strange to think that so many hours went to just 90 minutes, but that's how this trip went. Like I said, we delivered food to families. It was really good. Some of the students made some really good observations. Some of the food that we delivered wasn't the most healthy food. It was bags of chips. It was beef jerky. It was hummus. It was all different kinds of things. But that was what was donated to them to donate to families. And so it wasn't the most healthy food by any means, but it was food that a lot of these kids, because they rely on the school system to get their foods during the weekend because they were on spring break, probably weren't going to get a lot of food during that time. And then we did prayer and outreach, and I think I snapped this picture. It's still one of my favorites of the trip. But Waylon praying with a family right there. He just knocked on the door. One of the other biggest challenges that we had is very few of us spoke any Spanish, and there was a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Spanish-speaking people that we had to share with it and teach with. And so some of them knew a little bit of English. Some of them had brothers or sisters that helped them a little bit with it. But the other thing we did is we used Google Translate a lot. I mean, we would say what we wanted to say, and then we would play it on Google Translate, and then we were able to communicate with the kids. It was such a hard language barrier at times because most of us aren't fluent in Spanish or even know any Spanish besides like Yo quiero Taco Bell or whatever we hear on the commercials. Lessons that we learned. So this is cool. This is where I want. So all the kids made a video for me, and some of them are better audio quality than others. So I want you to check this out. This is how God worked in their life. On our Wednesday night service before we left, we were challenged to see how God worked in us. And so I had the kids answer that question, how they saw God work in them during this week.
God worked in me this week by showing me how many people around me need to hear His word that I never noticed before. God has worked through me this week by giving me the strength and confidence that I needed to be able to go out of my comfort zone and do things that I don't usually am comfortable doing at all, like knocking on people's doors and handing them food. So, yeah.
God has worked in me throughout this mission trip by showing me how much of an impact I can make on these people's lives. Like, whenever we would go to Rainbow Express, how happy these kids would be to just see us and just to come play with us. And when we were passing out food, how happy these people were just to get, a couple protein bars and a couple beef sticks. But they were so grateful for everything they got. They always smiled, and they were just thankful that we were able to be there, and we were able to be the hands and feet of Jesus, and just, being there to help them. And, really touched me that myself can make such an impact on these people's lives that really could use some positive in it. And it just encourages me to keep doing these types of things and just keep helping people and keep spreading God's word.
Hello, my name is Bo, and ways that God has worked in me this week were He gave me a lot of confidence to talk publicly about my story and my faith, and also to share His word with younger children throughout the week.
One way I feel God worked through me through this trip is so before I went on this trip, I'd always ask for stuff I didn't need, like new shoes, new clothes and stuff, and just going to Dallas and seeing what the kids had compared to what I had just made me feel so ungrateful because I'd always ask for what I didn't need. And when we asked the kids what they wanted, they'd say food and clothes, and some of the little girls had never had pajamas before, and it just made me feel so sad, and I just feel like I need to stop asking for what I don't need.
My name is Jackson, and God worked with me this week by
sharing my faith with others by going door to door, handing people food, and stepping out of my comfort zone to pray with people I've never talked to before. I feel like that was a huge step in my faith, and I think it helped out a lot of people. Also, giving lessons to little kids. God worked in me that way. Just seeing how happy those kids were for how little they have, but they don't really realize that they don't have that much. Also, how eye-opening the last apartment complex was, how they all kept wanting more and more food, as they kept coming back to us, and it was just really cool to give them food, but it also was pretty sad that they kept wanting more and we kind of ran out.
God worked in me last week by giving me courage to knock on random people's doors and just talk to them and stuff, and like making me give a lesson to like other random people and like talking out in front of other people.
God worked through me this week by giving me confidence and helping me put myself out there to help these kids.
God has worked in me this week when I was handing out the food to all the neighborhoods. That was really eye-opening to me, and that really felt good when I was handing out that food, giving it to people in need. And like the last apartment complex we went to, I could really tell that those people really needed it, and like the joy they had when we brought them the food and how helpful it was to them. I'm sure it really shone. And I think lastly, the best way Jesus worked in my life was at the park with the kids. I built a strong connection with a lot of them, and show them what God can do for them in their life. And yeah, it was overall a really good experience.
God really worked in me this week. Two big reasons. Number one is, I've been going to church a lot of my life, and I've been learning about God a good chunk of my life. And this week, I think God really showed me that I can really spread God's word in a good way. I just need to open up and have confidence. And God showed me that I do have confidence, and I know I have confidence. I just need to put it to use. And this week I really think I did. And I'm just really happy for that, because I got to share God's word with the kids and adults as well. God really helped me spread his word well by putting my confidence to use. I feel like I can speak really well in front of people and speak to people well. And so I'm glad I got to do that this week. The other reason is for the past like year. So when I've always prayed a bunch for just really anything throughout the day, or just praying to God. But this week we did a lot of praying, and for the past year I feel like I have lost I've kind of lost my way with praying. I have not been praying a lot for the past year, and this week I prayed a bunch, and I think it really it kind of brought that back for me, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm glad I hope after we go home, I think I found my way back. I got back on that path of praying, back on track with that, and I'm really thankful for that. This trip really helped with that, and it brought back my sense of prayer and praying whenever it's needed, or whenever I just need to talk to God. And I think this trip did really good at bringing that back. So, Dallas 2025.
I think that God has worked in me this week by helping me be a lot more patient. Like there's some kids who are messing around during the lessons and I'm just not really paying attention. Normally I probably would have gotten kind of annoyed by it, gotten a little bit upset, but I think God helped me and helped me stay patient and try and be a little bit more, a little bit more patient with them, saying like, all right, maybe let's not do that, instead of just kind of getting mad at it. I think he's also just kind of helped me be a little bit more joyful this week. Yeah, I felt pretty joyful this week, and I've really enjoyed this. So I think that he's kind of working in me to help me be a little bit more happy on this trip.
God worked in my life many ways this week. One of the ways that God worked in my life was showing me the more unfortunate side of the world and part of America, and it makes me very grateful for everything that I have, and it kind of makes me a little sad for the people that have to, like, that just are in a bad position right now. God also worked in my life because I prayed for a lot of people this week, and I'm just gonna continue praying for them and just hope that everything that they need and want can come in their life. And the last way that God worked in my life this week was He showed me how important it is to spread the gospel, and how spreading the gospel is one of the best ways of spreading Christianity across America and the world.
This past week, I feel like God worked through me by giving me the courage to get up in front of these people and pray with them and share my story, and just in general to like connect with a lot of new people and just like experience a lot of new things. And I think it's really cool that we were able to see how little these people had, and they were still so grateful, and they were still so receptive of us and of God's word, and it was just beautiful.
God has worked in me throughout this mission trip, like helping me build the strength and courage to get to know more people and knock on doors, not knowing what was to come. And it's just helped me with life skills and just building better relationships with people I don't know. He's also given me the courage to do my lessons even when I was nervous. I was nervous at the start, but then I didn't. I was perfectly fine, and I just enjoyed it.
God worked in me this past week by giving me challenges to help me really grow in my faith and, get me out of my comfort zone a little bit, because by the beginning of the week, I was just really scared to talk to the kids in general and give my memory verse, but by the end of the week, I was just comfortable with giving my lessons. I loved giving my lessons. I loved playing with the kids, singing with them, and I think a part of this was, like, going to the apartment complexes and asking, like, hey, can I give you some food, or do you need anything? Can I pray for you? And I think that's how God worked in me.
God has worked in me on this trip by giving me the strength that I need to knock on random people's doors, not knowing what's going to happen if they answer. And He's also giving me the strength and courage and confidence to talk in front of other people, giving lessons. And it's just helped me have better relationship with the kids and have a better relationship with God as well.
God worked in me this week because He empowered me to share His message with young children, guiding me to stand firm in my faith. And He also helped me see things from a new perspective, which filled me with gratitude for the things that I have.
All right, so this is how this is going to work for the next 15 minutes or so. So if you went on a mission trip, and you're a student, stand up. I want one student per table, okay? So you're going to have to break up from your friends a little bit. And then you'll switch in about 5 minutes. I'm going to switch. This is their time to present to you. I want them to be interviewed. Maybe you're going to have to ask them questions, which I'm going to pass out here in a second. You'll be able to discuss it with them. But I want them to hear about that, your trip their trip from their perspective, okay? So about 5 minutes, then I'm going to switch. We'll probably switch 2 or 3 different times, okay? So you get to hear different people.